Hello, I'm Tony Payne. Welcome to So Many Questions. This course is designed to help you answer common questions about Christianity. We'll take a look at 13 of the most common questions and objections that people raise and think about how to answer them. For each question, there will be time for you to think and discuss possible answers, as well as some input on this DVD from some experienced Christian teachers and apologists showing how they would go about answering these common questions. However, before we get to the questions themselves, we need to spend some time on the basic principles that are common to any and every answer we might give. The first 4 segments on this DVD cover these basic principles. In this first segment, we're going to talk about why we need to answer questions in the first place. The answer, as you might expect, is in the Bible and in 1 Peter 3 to be precise. In verses 14 to 16 of 1 Peter 3, we read, "But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled, but in your hearts regard Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame." Peter is writing to Christians who are being persecuted for their belief in Christ. He encourages them to persevere amidst their trials and to put their trust in the glorious hope of the gospel. He also urges them to keep living good and honourable lives in their communities, even if they get slandered and mistreated for doing so. And here in chapter 3, he says that even if you end up suffering for doing good, don't be fearful. You know that Jesus Christ is the Lord, and so make sure that you set him apart in your hearts as the Lord, because he is far above all other authorities. We need not be fearful. And notice what else Peter says. He says, always be prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. In the midst of persecution, in fact, especially in the midst of persecution, Christians are to be ready to defend their faith and give reasons for their hope. And if this is true of Christians who are being persecuted, how much more should it be true of Christians who live in the relative peace and security and freedom that most enjoy in the Western world? We ought to be prepared. In other words, we need to have done our homework before we are asked how we can know that Jesus really rose from the dead, or why we think we have the truth about life, or why we just can't be good enough to please God. We know that questions will be asked and challenges issued, and we can even have a pretty fair idea of what those questions and challenges will be. So we ought to prepare. We ought to be ready in advance, and this course is part of that work of preparation.